According to the survey, 1 in 5 women in India suffer from PCOD, seen as a lifestyle disorder. A relationship with insulin resistance has been found for the same. In fact, way back in 1935, Stein and Levital reported that PCOS with symptoms like enlarged ovaries, multiple cysts, and fertility hindrance. So, what is causing and what we can we care about them, and what are the cures for these?
Let's ask the experts in our 7th episode of Ketchup Mom's Let's Talk show. PCOD, cause, care, and cure. That is what we are going to talk about today. We have with us on the panel Dr. Mamta Dighe. She's MD, DNB, FCPS, DGO, FNB, that is reproductive medicine, and she's the director of Zenith Advanced Fertility Center, Pune. We have with us also Dr. Avjot Kaur. She's MS, DMAS, PGDS, Ops and Gynae, and consultant and sonologist with Umkal Hospital, Gurgaon. Thank you for joining us today on the panel. And let's start the show.
Thank you.
So we have, hello ma'am, hello Dr. Avjot, hello Mrs. Mamta Dighe. So Dr. Mamta, please explain PCOD in a very simplified way. And it is a ovary disorder or a hormone imbalance?
Actually, it is both, because it is basically a problem with the hormone regulation. There are more male type hormones in girls and women who have PCOS due to some genetic components and also related to insulin resistance. Now, because of this, it causes a change in the way the hormones are regulated. And due to this, the normal ovulation that is happening every month from the ovary does not take place. So what happens is that all the follicles that are there in the ovary kind of go up to a certain level, they grow up to a certain level, but they do not ovulate. And if you do not ovulate, the normal change in the hormonal pattern does not take place. This leads to irregular menstruation. So it's a combination of hormonal irregulation, insulin resistance, leading to ovulatory dysfunction.
Dr. Mamta, is PCOD and PCOS the same thing?
Actually, we don't use PCOD really now. It is basically a syndrome. What we need to understand is that PCOS is a syndrome. PCOD is a disease where, you are looking at the morphological appearance of the ovary. But polycystic ovarian syndrome is the basic thing that we talk of today. And that is general term that is accepted as of now. So we have to address it as PCOS rather than PCOD.
So Dr. Avjot, for umpteen years now, we have been hearing that this is something that has just come up. But as Shiny said it, way back in 1935, people did realize that there is something like this happening with the women's body. Yeah. But we like to term it as lifestyle disease, right? But somewhere, I think down the lane, we realized that there is some connection to insulin resistance. It has to be in the family. So is that true?
You may say that genetics have a role to it, and it is a familial condition. This syndrome was more or less always like a mystery, and there are still too many studies that are going on. But let me explain in a very simple way so our viewers can understand it better, that what is insulin resistance? Actually, it is a metabolic state which is characterized by decrease in the ability to respond to insulin signaling. So I will make it more simpler. Like insulin resistance is one of the root physiological imbalances. So in more or less all PCOS, so this is where your pancreas need to pump out more and more insulin in response to high blood sugar levels. Ab insulin kya karta hai? What does it do? It lowers your blood sugar by storing glucose in the cells. The cells become very resistant to constant insulin. So they need more. So unhe zyada chahiye to be signaled to lower the blood sugar. So when it goes for a while, you have high insulin and high blood sugar. Insulin is also a fat storage hormone. So concentrating the fat in the belly area. So this is a typical of the hormonal belly. So high insulin फिर क्या करता है? It just tells the ovaries to make more testosterone. So this is why certain women, they have excess androgen, like facial hairs or like hairs on the belly, or acne, thinning of the hair, oily skin. So this, of course, is, I mean, lifestyle disease, because it's somewhere related to insulin resistance, which in turn is related to obesity and all. But yes, now we have very, very strong studies that suggest, of course, IR, that is insulin resistance, is is a thing that we can relate to it.
So then, okay, what should our approach be to something like this? Are there
Okay.
any tests that can be done much
Yeah.
earlier?
Yeah, so this disease, we don't look at it. It's like a multifactorial approach, because it has different dimensions when we start treating it. So there is no single test that itself shows whether you have PCOS or you don't. There are plenty of it to be done, so that we can tell you that this case is of PCOS. So now, because PCOS affects fertility, weight, and skin, so after you visit to your gynecologist, they will examine you properly physically. They'll take your history, family related history, and then check blood pressure and specific BMI, because BMI somewhere we relate because of the weight. So then we do a pelvic examination. So this is where we do our usual tests in the OPD. So coming to the blood test, there are certain hormonal tests. And I wouldn't say it's like a panel, but yes, we need all of it, to just relate to each and all. So the first test that we do when we take a blood examination is FSH. It affects your ability to get pregnant. So this gets usually low, and very few times it can be normal. LH is the second test, hormonal test, and it encourages ovulation, as in your the egg capability, आपका अंडा बनना की capability. It could be higher than normal, usually is. Third is testosterone, or with it we also get DHEAS. So these are a set of sex hormones, and it will always be high in PCOS. Then it's sex hormone binding globulin, which is called SHBG. We get it done, which is usually lower than normal. And because of the acne and the excess androgen, for the hyperandrogenism, what we call, we have androstenedione, which is usually raised. So directly we can also get insulin resistance checked. Very recently, we have also added up serum AMH linked to PCOS. Not very recent, but yes, now we do it as a usual thing, where AMH tells us the severity of PCOS. So we usually relate to it. So after these, one of course should head for an ultrasound examination, like the lower abdominal ultrasound scan. So if possible, which is better, a transvaginal scan. So it is usually helpful, TVS, in the obese patients. So here what we see, the ovarian volume, the ovaries, the volume, they are raised, and which is usually more than around 10. And you will see typically the cysts are peripherally arranged, and they're more or less in each ovary has to be more than 12. So these are the basic investigations which I wanted to just put it in a gist, so it becomes very simple for our viewers to understand panel of like these 6 tests, and combined with an ultrasound examination will give us a fair idea about the PCOS and how it can be investigated.
Can I add something, Charu, if that's okay, and Shiny?
Yes, please. ma'am.
Yeah, so I don't know the exact type of viewership that we have, but knowing Catch Up Moms, probably you have moms with adolescents over here, and girls who are getting into puberty and are going to start having symptoms of PCOS. So a couple of things for these moms to understand is that many times the symptoms of onset of puberty and the symptoms of PCOS overlap. So, this weight gain, acne, irregular periods can happen normally in a just starting menses adolescent, as well as these can be symptoms of PCOS. So moms have to be very watchful. They shouldn't worry immediately if, the daughter has very irregular menses or acne and stuff like that. If the periods, if once menarche starts, you start menstruating, and even after a year and a half to 2 years, if menses are irregular, if there is a lot of weight gain along with acne and the male hormone excess androgenization like terminal hair increase, then definitely you should get alerted about PCOS. But yes, being watchful is very important. And like Dr. Avjot said, these are investigations, but clinically also we need to diagnose PCOS. And most of the girls or women who come to gynec OPD with a typical history of irregular period, weight gain, and hirsutism, which is excess of hair growth, 80% of them have PCOS. Right? So that's a very, very important thing for people to know, that if you have a triad of these three things, and then it's acne, hirsutism, irregular periods, along with obesity, more likely than not, it is probably PCOS.
So actually, that was our next question, basically. So, for Dr. Mamta, so can you elaborate a bit about this? So, are the chances of offspring of PCOD patients getting the same disorder higher? Can we prevent it somehow? Like, how we can say, these things can prevent these symptoms, or we can avoid getting that done?
Yeah, actually, the question itself holds the answer. When you say that offsprings can get it, it means that it is inherited in some way. There is a genetic predisposition to it. And there's nothing that we can do to really prevent a genetic predisposition. It comes from the genes, so you cannot really do anything to prevent it. But however, having said that, PCOS has not been identified as a single gene which causes the PCO. It is a cluster of genes. And you might pass on some, might not pass on some. So that is why there is so much of heterogeneity in even the daughters or the siblings of mothers who have PCOS. But yes, PCOS is, if you look at a PCOS girl, 24% of them or more will have a mother who has PCOS, and 32% will have a sibling who has PCOS, as well as some other people in the family. So there is an inheritance. Again, a very important thing to understand, because you asked me, can we do something to prevent it? Now, obviously, we cannot prevent a genetic transmission. But again, PCOS has an epigenetic component. Now, what do you mean by epigenetics is that even if there is a gene, weight gain, stress, eating patterns, irregular sleeping habits, all these things are going to add on to the phenotype, to the symptoms. So you could be carrying a PCOS gene and still have no symptoms, but suddenly you may have weight gain, stress, irregular sleeping patterns, and that gene will come and the symptoms, it will start getting exhibited and you will start showing symptoms. So this is where you can prevent. By having a very good lifestyle, eating well, sleeping well, exercising, reducing stress, all these factors, if you take into consideration, this is where you can prevent PCOS and its severity.
Okay, so genes of like diabetes also can pass on to the our offsprings, like the diabetic parent, and they can have that PCOD. Is it like or PCOD parent can pass on to their kids?
All right. So see, there are two components to diabetes. One is a pure type 2 diabetes, which exists to a large extent in the Southeast Asian population, which can be there without having PCOS. However, when you have PCOS, insulin resistance, like Dr. Ravjot said, is a major or a key factor. So what it does it mean is for to, metabolize the same load of glucose, your insulin levels start rising. So your glucose can't get metabolized. The insulin can't push this glucose to metabolism. And hence, these women are likely to develop type 2 diabetes much earlier than some other women who do not have type 2. So nearly 40 to 50% of women who have PCOS can develop frank diabetes up to the age of 40 years. So that's a very, very important factor that everybody must keep in mind. And many of these women, about 5 to 15% of these women, could be totally normal in terms of their glucose levels and metabolism, and can go into frank diabetes even within 3 years. So about 5 to 15% of these women will go from being normal to being a diabetic in 3 years if they have polycystic ovaries, because insulin resistance is a major underlying factor here. So it'll add to your type 2 diabetes problem along with the genes.
So, Dr. Ravjot, if I was to prod you on the same question a little more, many times when girls are just getting into puberty, as we were just discussing, they start missing their periods. And the first thing that a gynecologist says is she might have an iron deficiency, right?
Mhm.
And somewhere, we might lose an year or 2 or maybe 3 years just trying to decipher that. But sometimes I do feel that, if you discuss with PCOD patients, as we were doing when we were researching for this, they said, small things that start adding up. So for example, one mother told us that, her daughter, she started getting these black lines at the back of her neck.
Yeah.
And she said, I started literally, using a loofah on her like a maniac, because I thought that my child is so clean and yet she's getting these dark spots. Till she realized that this is not something that will brush off, and it has something to do with a hormone or insulin levels, right?
Yeah.
Now, under such circumstances, say a kid is, so she said that her daughter was just 9 years old when these indications started. By the time she reached her puberty and her menstruation started, and it was like a year or 2 into it, she realized there was something amiss, more than what the doctor was even seeing, right? So, if as a mother, like if I have PCOD today and I have a daughter who develops these kind of symptoms, right? Is there a simple blood test, a simple hormonal test that I can get done? That, maybe my daughter is absolutely underweight or at weight, she's not overweight, she doesn't have all the symptoms that probably would come after teenage or maybe when she hits her 20s. But I know that certain things are wrong. So is there some blood test, some hormone test I can do?
See, PCOS, by rightly said, Dr. Mamta also explained that it can originate in puberty. So our clinical observation teaches that PCOS develops during adolescence. So anything like excessive hair growth, it usually originates before onset of the cycle. So at time menarche, which means when you start having periods, as in time when the cycles are to be started, they get delayed. So, but irregular cycles alone, like just irregular cycles alone, they're not indicative of PCOS.
But doctor, just sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
This would still be an indication that we would be able to, catch when they are turning into their teens, 13 or 12 or 11. But when they're 6 or 7, and if we see, like, if I have diabetes in my family, I have PCOS, and then I see these small indications coming in my daughter who's not more than 7 or 8 or 9. So, okay, apart from that, I will give her some good food and, have a healthy lifestyle. Is this hormone, just a simple hormonal test that could help me?
See, cycles can be irregular during the first few gynecological years, like rightly told. So yes, anemia can be one of the many reasons, like you said that, that is kind of indicative. But at puberty, there is an increased hormone, which is LH, which, tends to increase the insulin. and that increases the androgen production as well. So yes, after puberty the insulin progressively declines in most of the patients, resulting in normalization. And but after puberty also there are few PCOS cases that will persist, because yes, it has a strong connection from the family and the genetics. And like you asked, if you are diabetes, yes, because it is a pre-diabetic condition. And when there is a genetic condition, like if there is a switch which we keep it, we cannot just off it. That gene apparently is on because it comes from the family or from the genes. So I've explained about the blood investigations. There is no like one simple test that you could say, because there are multi-factorial things that are involved in it. So even if you asked that if my daughter is not overweight,
And
right?
she's only 7 or 8. That's the
Yeah.
crucial age.
So we do have these. There are two kinds. Not every PCOS patient will have weight gain. So just weight gain would not be indicative of PCOS. We can't label like with just weight gain like PCOS, because it has multi factors. We'll have to investigate all of it and go through almost all the blood investigations, which are now kind of very done at the basic level in the OPD. And also it has to be noted that we also have to get an ultrasound done for that, so that we combine it, and then we we can just counsel you regarding it, that this certain age with this severity, because the severity will also with every patient change. So this is why. But the thing to be noted here is during adolescence she can have skin troubles, hirsutism, hair growth, or acne and thinning of hair. And also, like the way you said, the blackening of the neck, that is actually called acanthosis nigricans. So which is a specific condition where the insulin resistance will increase, and there's a black line behind the neck. So that is the pigmentation at the back of the neck that might be present with irregular periods. So the management will depend on the presenting problems. Each case would be different. So, but it is very important to visit your gynecologist in a clinic to exactly know the reason behind the irregular cycles, or maybe things that are associated with it.
Charu, can I add?
So, ma'am.
Okay, so your specific question was with regards to age. And what I think maybe this mother was trying to say is that my daughter has not yet got her menses, but I can see weight gain. I can see, a little bit of hirsutism. I can see maybe a little bit more of breast development in her. And, this discoloration. So a couple of things one needs to understand is that see, many times hormone issues don't exist just by themselves from a particular organ. So there's something called the adrenal glands. These adrenal glands are just near the kidney, and these also secrete the male hormones. Okay. But they do not secrete the sex hormones, which is the estrogen and the progesterone. Now, the estrogen and the progesterone is important for the menstruation, but the adrenals can secrete testosterone and androgens. And it has been noted that girls who tend to have polycystic ovaries have a premature adrenarche. So what do you mean? So when you say a premature menarche is, you get your periods much earlier than what a regular, what is expected. Similarly, your adrenal glands also mature and start functioning at a certain point in time. So girls who have PCOS or a genetic predisposition also have a premature adrenarche. So you may not see periods, and there would be some time till you even understand that she has irregular periods. But the telltale signs because of the premature adrenarche can come up. And I think this mother, whoever asked you this question, is a very vigilant mom. And, observing these signs is important. It's not that always something will lead to something, but keeping a watch and understanding is important, because many times if the premature adrenarche leads to the premature menarche also, at a very early age she might develop, the other secondary sexual characteristics, or may even start menstruating, acne, and then not prepared to deal with it at that stage. And hence it's up to, I think, us moms to make sure that we are at least vigilant about what is happening. So that is what the mother was trying to ask you, that she's young, she's not got her menses, but this is it, what do I do? So
Correct.
I think, yes, maybe consult a doctor, but this is the reason behind it.
Thank you so much.
Just a question related. I just a little curious. Now that, like, because of the lifestyle and everything, are girls getting these menses and everything much earlier? And like, because in our time we used to get like when we were like 14, 15, 16 probably. So is it like because of the lifestyle happening and the other eating habits probably?
Yes, I think it is, because see, there is a certain set off, in the body. So based on your adiposity, your fat cells, there is a change in your hormonal milieu. So the brain recognizes it as if, the stage has come. So that is why the lifestyle, the obesity, what you eat, there are so many foods, like fast foods are very rich in estrogen, for example. I mean, even men who eat a lot of fast food have excess of the female hormone in the body. So all these factors are definitely contributing, and there's so much of stress, pollution, ultimately everything is linked in our body. I think we have come to a stage, especially with this pandemic and everything going on, to understand that though all of us are specialists of different, systems, the body is a whole, and it's very important for us to understand our body as a whole and treat it as a whole. And that is when actually I think we will go towards health, rather than, learning to prevent disease. We need to learn how to maintain health, and this is the way that you do it.
Right. So, Dr. Mamta, let's discuss our atypical symptoms of PCOD, and let's tackle the solution to the same too. So, first, our symptom is hormonal misbalance. So, how we can cure it? How can we can tackle with it? What are the causes, and how we can take care of it?
See, the causes, partly they are the genes, partly it is the metabolic problem, that is your insulin resistance, high androgens, and some of the things you can do nothing about them. But the best way is a lifestyle change. In fact, they have done studies where they have given women insulin modulators, like we give how there are medications for diabetes or insulin resistance, which we use even in girls or women who have PCOS. So they've done a study where they have given one group these insulin resistance drugs, and another group only and only lifestyle modification, which consists of, a proper diet, and there is a PCOS diet, the right exercise and the right mindfulness kind of techniques. And they have found that the girls who were in the lifestyle group actually did better than the girls, who were given the insulin resistance medications. So that is why the cornerstone or the basic management is lifestyle change, control of weight, a proper lifestyle, eating in time, sleeping in time, inculcating an exercise pattern, and also doing some mindfulness techniques. So I think I would say this is the best. Of course, there are many other medications like insulin resistance drugs, hormonal medications, but you must go meet up your doctor, individualize the patient, and then decide what kind of treatment will apply for what kind of patient.
And what about the irregular periods? So if they're like started, so now how to like manage them? Its causes.
So do you want me to answer that? Yeah.
Yes.
So with irregular periods, what I like to tell my patients is that we are very, stuck up with this having menses every month. Even if you do not get menses every month, but you menstruate by yourself without any medication, even every 45 to 60 days, it's still fine. I would just put them on a lifestyle modification if everything else is okay. But I think at least once in 2 months, the woman has to shed the lining of her uterus. So if the periods are very irregular, then we would decide to put them on to some kind of hormone medication, either like a oral contraceptive pill, which is like a combination. But many times I would personally, in young girls, avoid the estrogen component. So what I would do is, if you're not getting your periods, just take a withdrawal bleeding by the end of the month so that you bleed. But if not, if nothing else is happening, then we can put them either on the insulin sensitizers, or we can put them on some kind of hormone medications in a cyclical pattern, so it's taken every 21 days or towards the end of the cycle to get the periods in time, along with your lifestyle modification.
I think there's been some trouble in the network at Gursimran's end. So I'll just continue with the questions. So coming to you, Dr. Avjot, we've also seen that typically a symptom is obesity. Metabolic rate does go down. And, I do find it like a vicious cycle because, if you go to a gynecologist, they say shed weight. But at the same time, the reality is that if a normal person is going to work for 30 hours and say lose 10 kgs, a PCOD patient will probably have to work out for 60 hours to lose the same amount of weight, right? So it becomes like a vicious circle where the weight keeps going on and then your, PCOD also keeps getting worse. So what do they do apart from, say, medication?
See, whenever the patient comes to us and, usually they have weight gain, they typically say they don't have time. This is why changing of lifestyle is very, very important. This is why all this while, Dr. Mamta has rightly explained that, of course, this you can't deny and say that this is not a lifestyle disease. Yes, now the studies have gone towards something that we can relate, and we are much way ahead of what we were. But the central obesity, as in the fat around the belly area, it is a characteristic feature of this disease, and all the disorders and the symptoms are exacerbated in the presence of obesity. So it isn't like the slow metabolism. It actually is because of the altered levels of some hormone for women with PCOS that are likely to produce excess insulin. Again, explaining and again going to insulin and greater insulin resistance. It makes it really hard for the body to use the energy, and cause high. That's why it causes high blood sugar. So part of this is, because of increase in androgens too. So for this time, the first, and I would call it like the big step, is reduction of the weight and reduction of the weight. So because the treatment is targeted to correct the biochemical, as in the levels inside, the abnormal levels inside. So the BMI should be maintained at 25 or below, ideally, or less, because it improves the menstrual disorder, infertility, and hyperandrogenemia, hirsutism, all the and acne. So exercises are found extremely beneficial. So having said that, it is actually a collective approach. And also its management depends on, everybody has different symptoms and complaints, so the management always depend on that. But the key to where, at the base level, how we start is weight loss. So in case if the diet also plays an important part. So we do give metformin, which is an insulin center, medication with it. So of course the hair and skin and everything is also taken into the account. So weight loss has to be done, with or without said that, you don't have time for it, but it starts from that level. Of course, with the other complaints and everything, we make it like a why, and we would always go and see what was the reason and always advise you certain extra things. But for everything, the baseline starts from your lifestyle, your diet, your nutrition. So if those 20 hours while you're working, like you said, the diet can be taken care. The intake of water, leading a healthy lifestyle, having, inside of a little doing yoga or meditation, or with it, exercises, they're proved, in the studies that they help. So it's general, it's the treatment for it starts from weight loss. So we can't ever skip it, that, you can top it out and move towards just the tablets or the pills, if I may
What
say.
I hear is that all the symptoms, whether it is male pattern baldness or acne or hair growth or weight gain, everything can be managed if we are going to change our lifestyle, have better food, and of course medicines.
Right,
Now,
right.
this is, somewhere I also feel that because PCOD is not a life-threatening disease per se, we do tend to take it very easy. Apart from certain things that it does to our body, and then we get maybe something like fertility. And once a woman has gone past that, if you have PCOD, you become a mother, you just let go because you think it's okay, it's not life threatening, right? But increasingly what we've been seeing, and I think what the studies have said, is that there's so many things that it can lead to, right? So if I was to ask you, Dr. Ravjot, if I just start with saying that PCOD and fertility, right? I think that is one big thing that gets affected with PCOD. But conceiving naturally, there is a way, right?
Yeah. See, it's of course, PCOS is the most common hormonal condition in women today. So they can conceive naturally, especially after losing weight. Of course, we've spoken a lot of about it, that why as to it is important. And yes, having said that, that few women in PCOS might struggle to become pregnant, and they're at higher risk of developing few complications during pregnancy. But by managing the symptoms, they can become pregnant naturally and also have a healthy baby. So it's just a kind of myth that, of course, I mean, we have patients who come to us who have fertility related. Almost 40% of the reproductive age group has PCOS today. So somewhere, yes, it is one of the biggest this thing of infertility, but PCOS can conceive naturally. If not, because it's so common, we have very usually given drugs for this. And today we have science, we keep doing ultrasounds to see how the egg is growing, and we take care of all of it. So the conception is possible, but a female might struggle depending on each and every case, like how obese is their obesity related, or how severe is it.
So, Dr. Mamta, I know you're a fertility expert. So, my question to you would be very direct on this. I've seen a lot of patients with PCOD mentally struggling with pregnancy. Somewhere they have this barricade in their head that says that I will have to go into IUD or IVF or a certain, kind of a procedure. But at the same time, what I see is the medical experts also tell them that IVF is much easier with a PCOD patient. Is that true?
uh, I wouldn't say IVF is much easier with a PCOD patient. I think any kind of treatment, Charu, you have to, again, like I say, individualize. How long has it been that the infertility exists? What is the age of the woman? What is the severity of the PCOS? Not every woman has a severe case of PCOS, even though she may have PCOS. And based on this, how willing are they to kind of go through treatments where it's a minimalistic approach, and then how early or how soon would they want to kind of proceed with higher forms of treatment? Because what happens in PCOS is all that we do in either trying naturally or the smaller forms of treatment is help this woman ovulate, and then expect that, the pregnancy should happen because we've taken care of the PCOS. But sometimes it's very difficult to make this woman ovulate, especially women who are severe PCOS. Secondly, PCOS women also tend to have a problem with the quality of their eggs, which can happen because of the constant high levels of, the male hormones, the insulin resistance. So sometimes even if you cause ovulation, due to the quality not being good, conception may not follow the ovulation. And under such circumstances, IVF definitely helps. The advantage with IVF sometimes in these women is that they get to know the quality of the eggs, they get to know the quality of the embryos. Not only this, when they make a lot of embryos, they can cryo preserve the embryos. So, like when you ovulate and you don't conceive, again, next month, you really have to push this woman to ovulate when she's trying naturally or doing an intrauterine insemination. Whereas with IVF, when she ovulates, you collect the eggs and the embryos, then you can store the excess embryos, and then she does not have to go through the procedure of stimulation over and over again. So I'm not saying that IVF is easier or should always be done, but has to be considered depending on a lot of factors in this woman.
But is the risk also higher? Because again and again, we hear the term OHSS. And they always, and I've seen people who are so fearful of going in for IVF if they are a PCOD patient because they think that over stimulation will happen.
Charu, OHSS has really gone out of, IVF practice. We all have OHSS free clinics now. So we already know that, there are certain severe PCOS patients who are going to hyper respond. What do you mean by hyper responses? The eggs in these, the follicles in these women are too many, and they're all at a certain level. So once you start giving them the drugs, either all of them respond, and if you try to decrease the dosage, it's not adequate even to give it that push. So many times you have this all or none phenomena with PCOS women. Either nothing develops or then everything starts developing. But because we foresee this, we know this, now we have certain drugs and the methodologies of doing IVF, where we call it segregation of the cycle, where we give a certain type of drug which will prevent OHSs. And also we do not transfer the embryos back in the cycle where injections are being given. So the embryos are made and then all of them are cryopreserved. They're not put back in the uterus. And then once this woman gets back into her regular rhythm, has one cycle, in a regular cycle, these embryos are taken and they're put back in the uterus. So OHSS free clinic is the norm today. So I don't think anybody should be worried about that. Yeah.
And also another thing is because they say that we don't shed the lining, they are more prone to endometrial cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true, but it's a rare condition. I mean, it can happen because there is a built up, right? It's not like the estrogen is not at all there, with those so many follicles, the obesity, the fat cells, the estrogen is coming, and it is going to act on your uterus. And if you do not shed this lining, it's going to accumulate inside the uterus over a period of time. And then you have these changes which start occurring and which can lead to an endometrial cancer or a hyperplasia or the early stages. And that is why it is so important to make sure that you shed your lining regularly, if not every month, at least every 2 months. And then make sure that, either you're taking the pills if you have a very, very bad irregular cycle. One also needs to keep watch on these women. Anytime you see a very thickened endometrial lining in a PCO woman, you should think of, that the risk is more and evaluate them accordingly. So I think one need not worry too much. It won't usually occur in young women, but yes, the incidence is higher in women who have PCOS compared to other women.
So I think a regular visit to the gynecologist is a must.
Yeah.
Because as I said earlier also, because it's not a life-threatening disease. Once you've had your babies, because you think that is the biggest hurdle you have with PCOD, and then you just sit back and you stop going to the gynecologist or looking out for medication.
Charu, I want to say one thing. The problem is that, if you don't bleed regularly, women usually approach their doctors. But the problem is when you bleed, but you neglect the other metabolic problems, because the risk of diabetes and cardiovascular problems in these women is much higher than an endometrial cancer. So they have to, what they tend to do is, periods miss ho gaye and you're not getting your periods, meet the doctor. But if the periods are regular, you tend to neglect the other issues that can arise with PCOS, and that should not happen.
In fact, they are the next two questions on our list. So, Dr. Ravjot, first thing is, I remember we did this episode with you, which was all about contraceptives. And we said that PCOD people do tend to believe that they will not get pregnant because, they have the PCOD issue. But the reality is also that somewhere they do face a kind of a sexual health challenge, right?
See, PCOS, like you just asked a minute back, like when somebody feels that they have had a kid, so they would not visit the, gynecologist. So I would want to comment here that, PCOD is just not, related to fertility, whether if you've had or not had a baby. It on a general way, it affects your life in so many ways. And, there are too many things that we come across when you start talking to these patients, and then they'll come. So they do ask about, these, the sexual health. And to a certain level, it's like they're confused. And because your period is irregular, so the fear of conception, if they don't want to have a baby, and because their period is always irregular, so they're always, of course they don't know their exact dates. So because of that, and or they may show up anytime. So because of this, that can be downer for few, of course. And there were very few, if you read on the internet, it's everywhere. So but these studies, whatever you read, they all of them are not very authentic. So half of them literally tell you that PCOS people have problems with the desire or the arousal. I wouldn't say that is incorrect, but yes, like how these articles just are flooded over the internet, one should not just believe it. And also few patients who are facing challenge with their weight, because of course you tend to become a little overweight, and your skin and your acne, and especially the girls who are like in their teenage and they are dealing with issues, they have hair issues, so they start feeling insecure about how they look, having hair hair growth or unwanted hair on the belly, and darkening of the skin, or the face acne and all that makes people especially the girls who are into the teenagers, just out of the puberty and the adolescence, they feel very less confident, or maybe they feel less attracted maybe. So there is this anxiety, or maybe like depression, that we see in few patients. One of like 2 or 3 cases that I've had, they were quite depressed about how they look, though they did have kids, so infertility was never so bothersome to them, but how the weight and how the skin and everything was just taking a toll on the life was very, very I was very deeply it's really deeply concerning for them. So yes, I mean, all in all, one starts again from the basic of weight loss, so that with the medications, with right treatment, with proper counseling, so one can actually lead a healthy life. It's not just about having a baby. It's not just about if you've had, then this you shouldn't be worried about. I think it's just a lifestyle that you have to maintain. And having said that, because the gene is on, accepting that it's never, you're never up off the radar. So because you have genetics of that running in the family. So it's better to accept and counsel, and maybe if, further help is required for very certain amount of patients, that can be done. But a proper gynae visit with the proper intervals is very, very required.
Saru, do you have time for me to chip in, or you need to finish your questions first?
No, you can definitely say whatever, ma'am. That is, we are very happy that we have doctors who are willing to give so much to our viewers, because there's so much anxiety in our minds regarding this. And now that Gursimran is back, she'll take the last question post your inputs.
So, what we tend to see is the menstrual problem, the hirsutism, and the infertility. But many times these girls are lost because it's easy to say you need to lose weight, and only they know how difficult it is for them to lose weight. It is because sometimes it is not just their the amount of care or how much they are putting in, but the other factors like the insulin resistance, the androgenism. Also, a lot of these girls have something called obstructive sleep apnea. So because of this, they don't sleep well at night. They don't even understand that. They feel very tired during the day. Anxiety, mood disorders are there. So we need to understand that there is a lot more than what meets the eye. That is first. Second, we need to give them some concrete methods of losing weight, or what they can do, rather than, just tell them that it is important. Yes, motivation is important, but you need to tell them a concrete method. So like in our clinic, we have a nutritionist on board. So she knows that she has to deal with PCOS girls and women. So because there's a constant dialogue, that is a place where the girls and the women can go. So this does not mean you always have to meet a nutritionist. But what I want to say is, a lot of girls and women say, ma'am, I've tried everything, I've done all kinds of diet, but no, you don't know what you're eating, what you're not eating. It's not always easy. So if there is a real problem, consult a nutritionist. Consult somebody who will be able to guide you as to what exactly will lead you to reducing weight, not just doing random diets. That is the first thing, or random exercises. The second important thing that I really want to give out to our viewers is that there are certain characteristics in your genome which determines your weight gain and your obesity. So now for people who have excessive weight gain, which is not, they are unable to lose it irrespective of what they do, there is a panel of tests that can be done. These go to the extent of even telling you whether exercise is bad for you. So there are women who do a lot of gymming, which causes inflammation, and that in fact can lead to more obesity. There is a method where girls or women or human beings eat at a certain point in time, which will add to weight gain. And if they don't eat at a certain point in time, it will help them to lose weight. So there is a panel of tests. Of course, it is recommended only in, extreme obesity or people who have not been able to shed weight at all. But again, if this is the case, meeting the right nutritionist, somebody who can guide you with the exercise, and if required, getting a panel done, which is not going to give you pills to pop in, but will give you indicators as to what is the right thing which will help you in an individual manner. So I think it's very important that, you sit and talk to them and not only motivate them, but give them some concrete advice.
I think I second what Dr. Mamta said, because, at the level where you, as a mother, you would just feel that I know what my, daughter has to eat, because I know how well the nutrition is. But at times there is a miss, and you really need somebody over the how you take care of it, when the exercises are needed, when just the brisk walk is fine, because these factors actually at times lead to obesity more than they can lose weight. So the whole panel where you also have somebody as a therapist in case if somebody needs it, because it is challenging. Everybody is going through some different severity of the disease. So I would want to suggest, in especially Indian scenarios where mothers feel that they know about nutrition very well for their kids, and also they just have to move out and start running, and that solves the purpose. So this is where I think Dr. Mamta mentioned about right nutrition and specific exercises.
So, okay. So, Dr. Mamta, the question is for you. One, that is, PCOD patients tend to forego their medicines actually. So, what is your advice on that? Do they should continue it, or any other prevention, or anything else we can do? So, because they feel certain medications tend to lead to weight gain and hormonal imbalances or mood swings.
Okay, so my first advice is lifestyle, lifestyle, and lifestyle. My second advice is listen to your doctor. I mean, go by what the doctor has told you. If the doctor has given you 6 months of medication, stick to 6 months of medication, make a revisit, and again try and understand what the next course is going to be. Do not self-medicate. At the same time, please understand that medications are being given because hormonal problems, irregularities already exist, not to cause the hormonal irregularities. So if the hormonal irregularities did not exist, we would not have given medications. So it's not that the hormonal irregularity is going to happen because of the medicine, but the medicine is being taken because there is hormone irregularity, and we can balance hormones only with hormones if it is not lifestyle. Second, mood swings, depression, anxiety, like I said, is a problem associated with PCOS and the pathogenesis of PCOS. So it's not just the drugs that you are taking, but the whole effect of the problem itself, which sometimes leads to this. So I think all in all, my advice would be that what you have in your hand, do it to the T. So your lifestyle and your health is inside, it's within. If you go to the internet, you'll get everything about all illnesses, but health is something which is your own doing, your own business. So take care of that part completely, and just take care of the other part by visiting and meeting a doctor you trust and you feel comfortable with, who'll explain everything, and try and go beyond just the superficial symptoms of PCOS. Try and understand the person behind this PCOS story, and what exactly the pain point is, and then who will be able to give the right advice and the medication. So for the medication, stick to what the doctor has told you, and for the lifestyle, make sure that you stick to what you've decided.
Correct. I agree. So now we have some viewers' questions. Jayanti will probably take it. Charu, is Jayanti here?
Yes, yes.
Jayanti will take it from here now. She's the viewer's voice.
She's just joining.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Just joining.
Good
I
evening.
have you.
So Jayanti will take the viewer's voice from here.
Thank you.
Jayanti,
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Mamta. Hi, Dr. Avjot. So there are a few questions, though we are running short of time. We'll address the few ones. Some of them appears to be a repetitive, but nevertheless, I thought I'll just take it over.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, just a minute, just a minute.
Jayanti will take the viewer's voice from here.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Dr. Mamta. Hi, Dr. Yep. So this is from Mama Tortuga. She says, is integral diet and Ayurvedic care a good way to support PCOD conditions? I think Ravjot can take that.
Sure. So we've explained and put our all emphasis about, how diet is important, how, nutrition plays a role, and how basic changes in the lifestyle they take over. But for me, I think Ayurvedic is something that I, as a doctor, do not understand the herbs really well about, their interactions. So probably there are a lot of things that, the syrups and everything that I come across that, they sell across saying that, it's a tonic and it's for PCOS. But I really don't like kind of, go towards and will ask them to take these herbal medications properly. What I would suggest is to do a proper lifestyle change, diet, and you'll be amazed. Like even within 3 months of a usual good diet with usual exercises or however, within 3 months the change that you would feel in your body, you would know that you've come far. But yeah, that has to be something that will continue throughout. You can't stop it because whenever you do, it comes back with vengeance. So I'm not sure about how these are not approved or approved, these Ayurvedic herbs and medicines mix. Can't comment on that because we don't know the authenticity and the approval from certain boards. But sure, yes, lifestyle does.
Okay. Okay. The next one is Megha Yadav. She says, what can I do on my own to lessen my PCOS symptoms? I think she can't do, but anyhow. I think Mamta, you can handle this.
On your own, I think it's the lifestyle, very, very, very important. And that includes your diet, weight loss. Always remember that the right kinds of foods is very, very important. Okay. So it's not just the calories that you're putting in, but the right kinds of foods. So lifestyle with relation to what you take in, lifestyle with relation to your exercise. So you have to make sure that the calorie loss is more than what you're putting in. That's very important. So some people say I'm dieting, or some people say I'm exercising, but you're putting in, you don't know what you're doing. So you need to have that chart of what you do. I also feel mindfulness is a very important practice because there's so much associated with PCOS that you will not be consistently able to do what you want to do with lifestyle if you are not centered within yourself. So I personally feel that lifestyle is important. And I tend to I am somebody who would probably let them try the Ayurvedic or the homeopathic medications, frankly, because like Ravjot said, very, very true. I completely agree with her that we do not understand, what is there. But it doesn't mean that because we don't understand, it doesn't work. So obviously these modalities exist. And if you're going to the right doctor, again, very, very important, you have to choose the person, whether whoever the Ayurvedic doctor is. If you're going to the right person and it's helping you and it's not causing side effects, because some Ayurvedic medications, I know they contain heavy metals. So you have to go to the right person. But if you can inculcate all this, then you can do a lot of things to, prevent the PCOS from worsening.
In fact, when we say lifestyle, people don't understand. I think most of the whole mass doesn't understand what is actually lifestyle. When we say lifestyle, we talk about having breakfast, not skipping the breakfast, which is very important part of the meal for the day, having lunch in time, and then going to bed earlier, not sitting late nights, having dinner in time, and then keeping up the water content, the necessary water content needed, and maybe can avoid the so-called addictions which one might get into. I think when we say lifestyle, we mean this, right?
Right, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the sleep pattern. We have so many people working according to US timing. So there's sleeping at night, working at night, sleeping during the day. So your body does not understand this pattern. We are basically meant to go with the diurnal rhythm. And that is why if you have such problems, even sticking to those times becomes more important than somebody who does not have these issues.
Yep. Okay, I'll go to the next question. This is from Dhanya Govindakrishnan. She says, is migraine headache a symptom of PCOD? Dr. Raujat, if you can just take this.
No, migraine and the symptoms of PCOD we've discussed can be associated with weight gain, with hirsutism, and but migraine is something which is not related. But yes, the history I think matters, because when you go to your gynec, you are supposed to give them a proper history, because there are certain kind of medications like these hormonal tablets which are contraindicated in the cases of migraine. So we tend not to give those kind of medications when you have a diagnosed case of migraine. So we don't give the usual contraceptive pills in that. So the management gets a little different. That might not be a symptom, but yes, if somebody has it, it's worth of mentioning, and it is in a proper history that should be mentioned, so that the medications or maybe what the guidance of the doctor is kind of important here.
Okay. Okay. This is Suruchi Dua. She says it's very clear that pregnancy and PCOD has a connect. What remedies do you suggest?
So one is pregnancy and PCOS definitely has a connect. If you are ovulating in time, that means if you are getting regular menstruation, and if you are taking care of your lifestyle factors, then a PCOS woman can still conceive naturally if she is regularly ovulating. The problem happens when you have these irregular periods and then you're not ovulating in time. So either there is no egg, or the egg comes up and ovulates at a time when the uterus is not in a position to accept that pregnancy. So if this is an issue and the symptom related to that is irregular menstruation, then you need to see the doctor, because along with lifestyle changes, they may need to put you on medications here.
Okay. Okay, this is from Divya Mittal. She says, if a person is a PCOD patient, does the daughter gets the type 2 diabetes?
I would say it's a pre-diabetic condition. They are more at risk, more susceptible to be having that, but we need to understand these are two different entities. PCOS does not mean that you have, diabetes in a literal sense, which is type 2. So a pre-diabetic means that you are more of at a risk of getting it. And if I simplify PCOS, it is a pre-diabetic condition, which with help, with medications, with lifestyle change can be prevented. But it is something that if you feel that you've lost your weight, or the life is fine, or you're eating fine, so this will just go. It's not a disease that that has occurred. It is a lifestyle component that has to be properly changed. And when you have diabetes, you can never say that now I'm not a diabetic anymore. Yes, you can say that this thing is under control. So the same is with PCOS. I will not say that these are same, but this might lead. It's a pre-form where it is working towards. So this means that at this point of time, a proper visit with proper counseling, with if medications are needed, should be done.
Yeah, I guess there are questions, but they look to be kind of what we have already addressed. I think we'll wind up, Charu. You can take it over to wind it up.
Thank you, Dr. Rabjot. Thank you, Dr. Mamta Dige.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having
So
us.
much.
And
So anyone who wants to connect with Dr. Rabjot and Dr. Mamta Dige, we will have their contacts in the comment sections. Any details, anything you would want to connect for, you can see the comment section below. Charu will take it over from here.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And also, do not forget to log in next week on Saturday, the 18th May, at the same time, which is 5 p.m. for your show, Ketchup Moms Let's Talk. As usual, we are coming up with another topic, which I think is the need of the hour right now, as the domestic violence cases are really going up. The percentage is really going up for whatever reasons. And we promise you that we are going to have experts who are going to tell us exactly what the laws are in India. We are also going to tell you how you can reach out for help, and importantly, as people around you, how they can reach out to you also, you know. So definitely let's see you next week at the same time. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, everyone.
For
Bye-bye.
having us.
Th-
Bye-bye.
Thank you, viewers, and signing off, Jayanti, Shiny, and Charu. Bye.
Bye-bye. Charu, please.